Welcome back to another midnight session on Midnight Crime Anim. Tonight, we're diving into a case where family loyalty twisted into something truly deadly, and a beloved Disney character became the chilling code word for a meticulously planned murder.
So the text that started it all was simple. It just said, Olaf is ready. Now for most people, that name makes you think of a friendly snowman. But in this house, on this night, it was anything but friendly. It was the signal. It meant the trap was set and the target, Damien, was on his way. This is the story of how a family meeting was designed, from the get-go, to be an ambush.
The 911 call comes in, and it's frantic, just as you'd expect. A man has been shot. The family inside, the ex-wife Tiffany, her brother Kevin, and their mother, they tell the police that Damien attacked them, that they had absolutely no choice but to defend themselves. So on the surface, it's presented as this tragic but clear-cut case of self-defense.
And their story was consistent. Almost a little too consistent. They explained that they'd invited Damien over for a peace summit to try and finally sort out a really bitter custody battle. But, according to them, he just flew into a rage, forcing Kevin Ellis to fire his weapon to protect everyone.
But that's where it starts to feel off, right? The logic just isn't there. You don't invite someone you supposedly fear over for a peace summit. In fact, we know that Damien's own friends had warned him that the whole thing just felt like a trap. These two stories, a peaceful meeting and a sudden violent attack, they just don't fit together.
The family really thought they had built the perfect story, a fortress of lies. But every fortress has a weak point, and in this case, it wasn't something they said, it was something they did in the moments right after the shooting. A single, crucial error they made while staging the scene.
And that's the central question for the investigators, isn't it? They walk into a scene that feels completely rehearsed, like a performance. So how do you start to dismantle a story that three people have all sworn to? Well, you look at the physical evidence, the parts of the story that can't lie. To sell their story, they needed Damien to be the aggressor. It was essential. So as you can see right here in the diagram, they placed a gun in his right hand. They positioned his body, with the weapon clutched tight, to make it look like he had drawn on them first. This was the absolute centerpiece of their whole defense.
Except, there was one fatal flaw in their staging, one tiny detail they completely overlooked. Damien was left-handed. And that's the tell. It is so much more than a forensic mistake. It's a psychological blind spot. In their arrogance, they staged the scene based on their own world, a right-handed one. And that one small detail revealed a massive deception.
So with that self-defense claim completely shattered, investigators knew what they were really looking at: a homicide. They turned from the physical crime scene to the digital one. They seized the family's phones, and on them, they found exactly what they were looking for: a complete blueprint for murder.
And the digital trail, it laid out everything, the motive and the method. The years-long custody battle, that was the motive. The peace summit was the lure. And the ambush, that was the meticulously researched plan.
Just days before the shooting, Kevin Ellis searched online for this exact phrase: how to stage a self-defense shooting. This isn't a crime of passion. That search, it's a window into a cold, premeditated mind. He wasn't just planning to kill, he was actively planning how to get away with it.
His very next search, stand your ground laws. Yeah, and he was studying the law not to follow it, but to find a way to twist it into a shield. This shows pure calculation, not fear. It's the mindset of someone who's trying to build a legal defense before the crime has even been committed. And then, the most chilling search of all: how long does it take to bleed out? This just removes all doubt, doesn't it? It's so chillingly practical. It's not about self-defense, it's about ensuring a kill. The sequence of these searches shows them troubleshooting murder like it was some kind of home improvement project. So, this brings us to the crucial question you see here. Does the evidence from the family's phones actually support their official story? The answer is a resounding no, not a single bit. Every search, every text message, it directly contradicts their claims. The phones became the primary witness against them.
So the investigation quickly widened from one shooter to an entire family conspiracy. The digital evidence tied them all together, showing that Kevin's sister and mother weren't just aware of the plan, they were complicit in its execution.
And as a result, Kevin Ellis was charged with first-degree murder. Tiffany, the ex-wife, was implicated in the conspiracy. And even the mother was drawn into this web, with her trial now set to begin as prosecutors work to hold the entire family accountable.
Prosecutors described it as a full-blown family conspiracy. And that's what's so psychologically compelling here. A family is supposed to be a source of protection, right? But in this case, it became an echo chamber for shared delusion, just reinforcing their animosity until murder seemed like a rational, even necessary solution.
They researched legal loopholes, they rehearsed their stories, they even created a code word from a children's movie. They really believed their collective intelligence would let them commit the perfect crime, but instead, every single step they took to plan it became another piece of evidence against them.
Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. What happens when a family's shared story becomes a shared delusion powerful enough to kill? Thank you to all the armchair detectives at Midnight Crime Manor for joining this session. We'll see you in the next one.